Hello, everyone. Today we'd be discussing the functionist perspective on religion. Now, this particular topic, we'd be discussing it under the heading religion and social order. There are two major theorists that I'd be bringing in under discussion today. Number one, we'd speak about Durkheim, the French philosopher, the French sociologist, and number two, Parsons, the prominent American functionist from the 1960s. He was an American, like I said. He belonged to a middle class family. He was also the faculty member at the Harvard University, pretty popular during the 1960s. Now, taking this ahead, when we speak about the functionist perspective on religion, to begin with, I'm sure everyone remembers all functionists are structuralists. All functionists are structuralists. Let me take another color pen. Yeah, all functionists, they're structureless. So if you're a structuralist, you believe it's the structures of society that shape your behavior, right? If you're a structuralist, you believe it is the structures of society that shape your behavior. And if you are a functionalist, like I said, one, you're a structuralist. If you're structuralist, you believe it's the structures of society that shape or govern your behavior. But you being a functionalist, you also believe that these structures, they all play a functional role, or they all play a beneficial role for the society. They all play a positive role for the society. Now, this is what I'm referring to here. This. Now, in the functionist perspective, in the functionist view, society has functional prerequisites. What is a prerequisite? A pre-requirement or basic needs such as value consensus. Now, according to the functionist perspective, for a society to survive, it is pretty essential that there is consensus, there is mutual agreement in terms of the values of the society, right? Now, which must be met as if it is to survive over time. Now, according to the functionist perspective, these these are the having consensus over the same values, it's a prerequisite, it's a pre-requirement, it's an essential, it's a must for any society's survival. Functionalists examine social institutions such as religion in terms of their functions. Let me be clearer here. Positive functions. It focuses on the positive role religion has in society and its contribution to meeting society's needs. This unit examines some of the main functions theories of religion. To begin with, like I said, we'd speak about Durkheim. Now, Durkheim was a French sociologist, a French philosopher. He was French. He wrote a book that was published in 1912. In this book, through this book, we try to figure out what his basic idea was about religion. While doing so, we'd initially speak about the concept of sacred and profane. Sacred and profane. Sacred is anything that is holy, and profane is anything that's mundane, that's not holy, right? Number two, we'd speak about totemism. This idea of totemism, or totemism being seen as a religion, through his study of the Australian Aborigines. Australian Aborigines. The indigenous Australian people. Number three, we'd speak about what Durkheim thought about religion and social conscience. Now, to begin with, Durkheim. Durkheim's account of religion, the sacred and the profane. Like I said, the word sacred over here is something that could be set apart. That is something that could be seen as forbidden, right? Now, Durkheim in 1912 argued that all religious beliefs divide the world into two completely separate parts. According to Durkheim, religious beliefs could be set apart, could be separated in two distinct categories. To name them, we are referring to sacred and profane. This is what we're talking about over here, the sacred and profane. However, the sacred are not simply things such as gods or spirits. According to Durkheim, anything could be potentially be sacred, including a tree or a rock. Now, Durkheim, like I mentioned a minute earlier, Durkheim conducted a study on the Australian Aborigines. In 1912, that is the early part of the 20th century, his book got published. And through this book, we get to know about what Durkheim concluded about these Australian Aborigines. According to Durkheim, these Australian Aborigines, they used to live in small little groups, little clans, and every clan had a sacred object. Every clan had something that they used to use as a symbol that they used to see as sacred. We refer to that as a totem over here. The word totem, right? Now, it would be written over here somewhere. This is what I'm talking about, totem or totemism, right? According to Durkheim, anything could be potentially seen as sacred. It could be a tree, it could be a rock. What sacred things have in common is the reverential attitude. Now, what does this mean when we use this term, a reverential attitude over here? Feelings of great respect or awe that they inspire amongst believers. Now, if you consider something to be sacred, right, you through worshiping that particular sacred object, you're actually symbolizing something. You're actually showing your belief in something that's bigger, that's beyond, right? Now, when I use the word totem over here, or when Durkheim uses the word totem over here, we're actually referring to something that relates to something that symbolizes, rather symbolizes a better word, something that symbolizes something that's bigger, that's beyond, right? Durkheim argued that sacred objects such as trees do not have any intrinsic qualities of their own that make them sacred. Consequently, they must be symbols, right? Symbols who are symbols that are being considered as a totem, symbols that are being considered as something big. In order to understand the role of religion in society, believe that it is necessary to examine the relationship between sacred symbols and what they represent. Now, according to Durkheim, it is essential that we examine the relationship between these sacred symbols and what they represent in a particular society. Durkheim examined reports of totemism, the religion of the Australian Aboriginal groups. This is what I had mentioned a minute back. Aboriginal society is divided into clans, like I said. Each clan has its own unique totem. Each clan has its own unique totem. This totem could be a plant, it could be a tree, it could be an animal, anything. The totem is a sacred symbol and ritual observances separated from profane or ordinary things. So you choose something and you refer to that, or you start seeing it as a totem. Now, that particular totem is now symbolizing something. It is referring to something big and beyond. A representation of the totem, the totemic emblem or an image is placed or painted on objects or people. The totemic emblem is also surrounded by rituals and is considered more sacred than the totem object itself. Now, I'll give you a simple example over here. For instance, if I may use the example of a cross, the cross used by Christians, many people, you must have seen them wearing one too. You do understand, you do realize a cross symbolizes something. It holds a symbolic value, right? It's not that object. It could be anything made up of metal, maybe. You don't show respect or pay respect to any metal object or anything made of metal. But however, if that particular cross is made up of metal, or if it has to do with that particular cross, Christians would definitely show respect towards it, because they believe that this metal object in the shape of a cross represents something bigger, right? Now, the totemic emblem is also surrounded by rituals and is considered more sacred than the totemic object itself. The totem provides clan members with their shared name. This means that clan members themselves possess sacred qualities because of their sacred name. This is important. I hope you've read it. Taking it ahead. Durkheim argued that the totem is the symbol of both God and society. From this, he argued that God and society are, in fact, the same thing. He suggested that in worshiping God, people are actually worshiping the society. According to Durkheim, Durkheim argued that primitive man comes to view society as something sacred because he's utterly dependent on it. Now, remember, Durkheim, my dear, is a functionist. all functionalists are structureless. I hope you're able to connect dots here. Durkheim is a functionalist. All functionalists are structureless. According to Durkheim, primitive man comes to view society as something sacred because it is utterly dependent on it. Because that human, that individual is utterly dependent on the society, right? Durkheim being a functionalist, all functionalists being structureless believing that it is the structures of society that shape or govern human behavior. Structureless believing that individuals actually play a very passive role in the society. Now, people invent a sacred symbol such as a totem because it is easier for someone to visualize and direct his feelings of awe towards a symbol than towards a complex thing such as a clan. Now, you could all use the example of cross that I gave a minute back, right? Individuals or Christians, they could very easily visualize and direct their feelings of awe towards that particular symbol. Because, of course, if you've many of you would be aware of the story behind that cross. If not, Google's available. You might as well Google this, and you'd be able to figure out what value does this cross hold for Christians. So instead of, it's easier actually to visualize and to direct your feelings of awe towards a particular situation, towards a particular instant, towards anything, right? Through a particular symbol. Taking this ahead now, I hope everyone has understood the concept of sacred and profane put forward by Emile Durkheim through his book written in 1912. Now, let me give you a quick recap. So we started off with the functionist perspective on religion. I took a start with Durkheim. We initially spoke about the concept of sacred and profane. We spoke about the study conducted by Durkheim on the Australian Aborigines, and we spoke about totemism and totems. Now, next in line, we'd speak about religion and the collective conscience, religion and social conscience, or religion and collective conscience. Now, before we proceed with this, I'd want everyone to remind themselves of what this word conscience over here means. The word conscience, a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. Your moral sense of what is right and what is wrong could be referred to your conscience. Now, what do we learn from this particular subtopic here? Religion and the collective conscience. Religion and the collective conscience. Durkheim viewed religion as performing valuable functions for society. Like I said, Durkheim is a functionalist. All functionalists believe these structures that we have in society, they all play a positive role, a beneficial role for the society. So likewise, Durkheim viewed religion as performing valuable functions for the society. He argued that social life would be impossible without the shared values and moral beliefs that form the collective conscience. Now, imagine Imagine a society without shared values. Imagine a society mutually agreeing to the moralities of a particular society. According to Durkheim, it would not be possible for individuals to have social life until and unless they share the same value system, until and unless they share the same moral beliefs. Now, without these shared values and moral beliefs, he argued that there would be no social order. Remember, we're discussing all of this under the heading religion and social order. We we discussing the functions perspective under the heading religion and social order. Or in other words, according to Durkheim, religion plays a very important role. Religion plays an essential role in terms of maintaining social order and social control within society. We'd see how. In short, there would be no society. Religion performs a key function by reinforcing the collective conscience, reinforcing the collective conscience. Reinforcing these collective conscience is pretty essential, because if you're not reinforcing this collective conscience, your society would collapse. The society in its simplistic form would not even exist. Religion plays or performs a key function by reinforcing the collective conscience. The worship of society strengthens the values and moral beliefs that form the basics of social life. Worshiping the society. If you're worshiping the society, it's strengthening your beliefs, it's strengthening your value system. In this way, religion acts like a cement that binds members of society together and promotes social solidarity. Now, we are discussing all of this under the heading religion and collective conscience. We all know what the word conscience means over here. We just spoke about how religion could act, or religious worship or worshiping the society could actually act like a cement. That you know what a cement is, right? A cement that binds members of society together, putting them all together, the collective conscience bringing in social solidarity within a society, collective conscience bringing in social solidarity, togetherness, integration within a society. Taking this ahead, Durkheim emphasized the importance of collective worship. The social group comes together in religious rituals full of drama and reverence. Now, just pause this for a bit and recall the last religious ceremony you attended, the last religious ritual, right? Collective religious ritual that you followed. Could be namaz at the masjid as well, right? So the social group comes together in religious rituals full of drama and reverence. Together, its members express their faith, togetherness, reinforcing social shared values, right? Togetherness, reinforcing shared values, togetherness, reinforcing moral beliefs, togetherness, bringing in collective consciousness. This togetherness could lead to social solidarity, right? Together, its members express their faith in the common values and beliefs. In this highly charged atmosphere, the integration of society is strengthened. Now, we were discussing Durkheim, Emily Durkheim, and we're discussing how Durkheim felt, how Durkheim thought religion plays its role in terms of bringing in social solidarity. Now, we discussed Durkheim under two main headings. The first one was the concept of sacred and profane, and the second we discussed over here under the heading religion and collective conscience. Like any other sociological theory, Durkheim's theory isn't free of criticism either. So let's have a look at how Durkheim's theory could be evaluated. To begin with, critiques argue that Durkheim studied only a small number of aboriginal groups. Now, remember research methods that you've studied, research methods, the methodology used by Durkheim has been criticized. You cannot, the idea over here, so I'm trying to explain this first point over here. The idea over here is you cannot conduct a research on a smaller group and then assume that the findings of your research would be applicable to all. So Durkheim argued that critiques argue that Durkheim studied only a small number of aboriginal groups, which were not typical. It might be misleading to generalize about Aboriginal beliefs and religion as a whole from the sample. So the sample chosen by Durkheim, through which he came up with his findings, is being questioned here. The idea is that you cannot collect data from a small little sample and then try to generalize the findings on a wider population, in this case, the Australian Aborigines. One. Number two, Andrew Dawson in 2011 suggests that some of the field data that Durkheim relied on were of doubtful validity. Again, we are talking about Again we criticizing the methodology used by Durkheim. According to Dawson in 2011, this is pretty recent, relatively recent, I'd rather say. According to Dawson, the field work data that was collected by that is being used by Durkheim, its validity could be doubted. Other critics argue that totemism is not a religion at all. So, yeah, many people might not want to see totemism as a religion. Durkheim did. Number three, Durkheim's view on religion are more relevant to small, non literate societies. Remember, he conducted his research on Australian Aborigines. Like I said, the Australian, what do you call it? The indigenous Australian people, right? You cannot conduct a research on a small little society which is which comprises more of non-literate people, and then assume that your findings would be applicable to the wider, more complex world as well. So Durkheim's view on religion are more relevant to small non-literate societies whose members share a common belief and value system. However, today this theory might be less relevant. Today, if we speak about uh, even if we speak about the UK is a multicultural country. People from different ethnic origins live in UK. There is a very diversified uh, culture. There are diversified cultures that are there. People from different social backgrounds, from different ethnic backgrounds living together. So this theory is more relevant to small non-literate societies, and it might not be very relevant to more complex or developed parts of the world where there is multiculturalism, right? And a wide range of religious beliefs, rituals, and institutions. So, yeah, even if Durkheim's theory makes sense according to this particular point, it might make more sense to smaller, simpler, less complex, and non literate societies. It might not be applicable, its findings might not be applicable to societies where people come from a wide range of religion, where people follow a wide range of religious beliefs. There are different rituals, there are different institutions that they follow. Now, these were the three main criticisms that we discussed. Taking this ahead, despite these criticisms, many sociologists recognize Durkheim's contribution to understanding of religion. According to Payden in 2009 argues that Durkheim's observation about the importance of religion for social solidarity remain valid in many circumstances even today. The symbolic importance of the Western Wall in Jerusalem, or also referred to as the Wailing Wall, for Jews is an example of the continuing symbolic importance of sacred objects. Many of you might be aware of this Wailing Wall, many of you wouldn't. I could just show you a picture here. I'd strongly recommend, we just take a minute or two, YouTube this, find out. I mean, you could just type the the War of Jerusalem. Oh, sorry, the Wall of Jerusalem, or you could type the Wailing Wall, and you'd get to know a lot about what is being said over here. Now, this, my dear, pretty much explains the perspective Durkheim held on religion. And one, like I said, we'd speak about Durkheim. Number two, we'd speak about Talcott Parsons. Let's begin with Parsons now.